Broadcasting live worldwide. Welcome.
Are you ready? Welcome. Señoras y señores, welcome
a Dialogo con Luis Otero. So welcome to a new episode of Dialogo with Luis Otero. This is your host, Luis Otero, and thank you so much to all the hundreds of thousands of people that they listen to us in every single episode worldwide. I want to say thank you to all of you. And again, please follow us in all social media accounts at Luis Otero in Instagram. We're over 90 plus thousand people. Dialogoconotero.com. In Twitter, you can go and listen to the podcast in over 29 platforms worldwide. Leave a review in the Apple Podcast platform, iHeartRadio, Odyssey, Tuning Radio app, Stitcher.com, Pandora, anywhere you can follow us. And even you can hear us in all Tesla, vehicles all around the world and all Alexa devices. So I'm extremely honored to have you guys as listeners and to always spend time with us in amazing episodes that we have. And as well, go to dialogoconotero.com so you can listen to all episodes. Today, it's been the bucket list for more than 3 to 4 years. And it's a true honor. I think it's one of the most special episodes that we had, scheduled in a long time. Our guest is such a hero, and he's a true example of just overcoming every single obstacle in life. And that's why it's so special for me, this episode. The guest today is an American war hero. That's the true example, a true patriot. He's a Purple Heart Recipient, 4-tour Iraqi War Veteran, a retired Army sergeant, a wounded warrior that re-enlisted after 9/11 and represented our country with so much dignity and honor. He's a true survivor after attacks of 9/11. I'm going to explain to you very quickly before I intro him. He suffered burns of almost 40% of his body after an IED blast blew his Humvee. Unfortunately, all his brothers from the Army passed away, and he was the only survivor. He, in the process of recovering, used comedy as a way to cope with everything. We're going to talk about that. He's an actor, and he, most importantly, is currently have an Indiegogo GoFundMe, an Indiegogo campaign for his documentary with director Noni Geffen to create this amazing documentary for such an amazing American war hero that he is. Today I have with me, and it's a true honor to have with me, the amazing comedian, war veteran, 4-tour Iraq War Veteran, Army Sergeant, wounded warrior, amazing husband, great actor, true American, Bobby Henline. Welcome to Dialogo with Luis Otero, Bobby. Such an amazing pleasure, honor to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's a true honor to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. I'm like, that guy sounds really cool. I want to meet him.
It's such a great pleasure and honor to have you, Bobby. Such an amazing story, amazing life. A veteran in Desert Storm by the age of 19, a true American. Bobby, talk to us about how was that childhood? Because we all know you by your amazing story and what you suffer through, in that day in April 7, 2007, that we're going to talk about it further on the conversation. But how you decided as a young age, in your household to serve the United States and be able to serve our beautiful country that is the best country in the world, providing your service and becoming part of the Army. How that started, because that is very well enrooted, very well in depth in your heart and the love that you have for the beautiful country that we live in.
My dad was a sailor. My parents got divorced when I was young, 10. She raised my sister and I, and then she married. So I was always around the military and always moving around as a kid. Most of my life I spent growing up in California. And I didn't say I wanted to do actually radio and be the next cool shock jock. In high school, I was a roller skating DJ with the mullet. It was so that's where I went on the right path. Thought I was too cool. Go down the wrong path at 17. And my uncle, who was 6 years older than me, he said, look, we need to do something in our lives. We're both going down the wrong path. He's like a big brother to me. So let's go in the Army together. So we went to take the test to go in the Army at 17. Well, and of course, he was 6 years older, but he didn't pass the ASVAB test. I barely passed. So they took me in. So I ended up going in without my uncle. But it was probably the best thing, anybody's talked me into was to join the military. I didn't realize how much I really needed it then. I think, my parents and my family knew I needed that direction. So I cut them all off and went in at 17. And like you said, I went to Desert Storm at 19. I turned 19 September 3rd. And then October 10th, I shipped off to Saudi Arabia to start off Desert Shield, Desert Storm.
It's incredible because it's just having that kind of like mentor in your life. That's what was your uncle for you, a mentor, a true patriot that said, hey, I think that this will be good for you. And I know that, armed forces provide that great discipline structure. And not only that brotherhood, but as well, that purpose just to, become the best version of yourself. And when you join in such a young age, listing yourself at 17 and going to Desert Storm at age 19, it had to be a very eye-opening experience and very important, experience for you in your life to, for the contributions that made that experience to the person that you are today and to what built on you after that moment. When you arrived to, Desert Storm, in such a historic, event in worldwide and, being a veteran in Desert Storm, how were those first few days when you enlisted and you were shipped to Saudi Arabia to this Desert Storm? And it's your first, experience that you have outside of your country, foreign territory. There's a lot of mental elements in that. How was that experience for you?
Things are dealt with by dealing with your buddies, because it's like you're all that young age hearing this for the first time. You're from New York, Florida, California, Indiana, best friends, and we're going over there together. So you just bounce off each other. And again, it's right away, use that sense of humor. I think anybody, if you use your sense of humor, it helps. And so that's how you had to deal with it. It was definitely scary, but you didn't know what you're getting into. In Saudi Arabia, in a safe area, when I look back, it was safe, but we didn't realize it. We're young privates. We don't get that information. And you had to set your truck. And then I got, well, what if someone comes over to my cabin and just stabs me? So I slept on top of the 2,500 gallons of jet fuel. I just slept on the top of that. It sounded safe. It was so funny. You're just so paranoid. You're like, well, when's the bad guy's going to come get us? Because they want you to be combat ready the whole time. So that they leave the lower enlisted playing anytime it can happen. So you got to be ready.
Of course, and you have to be ready and be prepared because you don't know what's going to happen. And you're in this mental insecurity state because you're like, we maybe are in a secure area, but we still have to be, playing, alive, what I call, that you're like, okay, let me be alert, at everything, with that experience, that you have in Desert Storm. And, when you come back after that experience, in years after the tragic day that we recently remember, 20 years, September 11, 2001, you decide to re-enlist yourself. It had to be a process from that first years that you spent in the Army, in such, training and building such relationships internally and serving our country. Had to, when you left Army, and you became a civilian, and then after that, you decide to join again back the forces in September 11, 2001. How was that process? Because my dad, I remember 2001, September 11, as a day that maybe, millions and millions of people's lives change. Plus, as well, my household and my end, my father lost their job, and there's a lot of, obviously, uncertainty around that time. But you decided this uncertainty, say, you know what? All my years of experience, I did Desert Storm. I represented my country. I love this country to death. What they did, it was wrong. And you, different than a lot of thousands of citizens that we don't judge them because everyone make their decisions. You made the decision to represent our country. How that decision came about, where you were at that point in your life, or where you were located when you said, you know what, I'm re-enlisting again, and I'm serving my country again, and we need to make sure, and I need to make sure that I give my best to the country because this is something that touched deeply in my soul. How you made that decision?
Yeah, well, I've always kind of wanted to go back in. I was missing it. I thought I wanted out when I was younger, and I realized I should have stayed in. This is what I was made to do. I loved it. But I had got married, and at 22, And so it was like, oh, she didn't want me to be in the military. She didn't want me to be in law enforcement, none of that kind of service. She's like, just do a regular job. But then I was 30 years old, and I was like, I should go back in. You know, I was already kind of thinking about it. I was like 29 at the time. I started thinking about it. I should go back in. She's like, yeah, whatever. You're too old. They won't take you. So I already started kind of talking to a recruiter before 9/11, just to kind of see, like, what are the chances of me getting back in, this and that. And you guys, well, we got to do this background check. It's a lot harder to come back in than it is to get in the first time. So I said, well, let's start the background check. Let's see see what we can do. So he was already kind of looking at my background check, doing some stuff. And then 9/11 happened. We're in the middle of that. So, and then I just turned 30 on September 3rd.
Wow.
So then,
wow. Congratulations, by the way.
That happens. And my wife at the time said, well, you don't have to go in, right? Because you're just talking to the recruiter. I said, no, really, legally, I don't have to go in. But for me, I know I have to go in. I know this is why I was talking to the recruiter. I meant to do this. I got this experience as a young man in the military in a war zone. We're about to go back to war right now, and I can give that experience to the other young men and women that are going to be going over there. Plus, I couldn't just let this happen in my country, knowing that I can do this. You know, this is what I'm trained to do. This is where I feel I fit. I need to get back in. So, yeah, all of a sudden, the background check and everything went really, really fast. The stuff the recruiter said was going to take a long time.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, October 31st, I was in basic training.
Wow. That was so quick. That was just a matter of like a month from that day to then.
Yeah, all of a sudden, somehow that paperwork went a lot faster.
and not only the paperwork went faster, but your heart went faster to the decision too, because you were deployed 3 times to Iraq. You know, Bobby, that's, you know, for a person that is trained like yourself, for you, it's like, we are serving our country and we are protecting our country from many other threats that we can even get into detail if we would like eventually, you know, in another conversation. But things right now, it's just unfortunately very sad what's going on. But extremely sad. But you decide to go 3 times to Iraq. For a person like yourself, you are ready to serve. When you were taking that plane, you know, and remembering that day, going back to that place that was very special for you, the Army, and you arrived to Iraq for the first time after many years that you because you recently re-enlisted. How was the feeling? Because it was different than Desert Storm when you were 19.
Right.
It hit you in a very different way. In what way it hit you, and how do you process those first few hours when you were back on enemy's line, and it was extremely uncertain in our country, but you were already on, you know, enemy's land. What was those thoughts for you?
Yeah, well, like in Desert Storm, my unit ended up in Basra, Iraq, and it's at South Iraq. So as we're coming up into the country and moving forward, and we hit Basra, it kind of like, oh my God, I was here, you know, so many years ago. But it's good to be back. And I don't say that because I like war. It's because I like the humanitarian side, that we're helping others. But it was different because now I'm not just this young kid with no family. I have 3 children and a wife at home. So you think differently. You're not, but you're trying to be as gun-ho or as dumb. You're gun-ho, but you're smarter gun-ho. You think about things through a little better. So yeah, definitely the family back home and the children made it a little bit harder, where you had to compartmentalize that and put that to the side.
How you do that, Bobby?
Contact.
How you do that? Because for me, I love my kids to death and my wife to death, and you love your wife and, you know, your kids as well. You have 4, if I'm not mistaken, 4 kids. You know, and it have to be so tough, but not tough, but it's mixed feelings, because it's like, I am serving my country, but I'm leaving my loved ones, and I'm doing this for my loved ones and all the millions of people that they're living in the United States in 2001 without knowing what was going to happen, because people, they were not aware of what was going to happen, because we don't know if we were under attack in our country, or if this was just only one casualty, or if this was like hundreds of casualties that we were going to see. We didn't know, so you left all your loved ones. It had, for me, it will be super, it will break my heart, but you took that courage and transported over there. Like, Bobby, like, I gotta respect you tremendously, because this is that's not a normal man kind of like decision, that you're like, you know what, I am doing this for my wife, my kids, my country, knowing that your life is at risk. Like, the courage that you have is impressive. That's why I commend you for that, and for many 100,000 things that you have done for our armed forces. But he had to break you a little bit,
Oh yeah, and to deal with it all, I'd write poetry. So I'd hear stories back home how my youngest daughter is having trouble because she feels abandoned by her father. And then, like, oh my God, did I hurt my children because of my decisions? They don't understand why I need to do this. Hopefully one day they will. But you can't have that on the top of your brain when you're out on a mission. Because now if you're thinking about that, you're not thinking about the mission, you're not paying attention, you're endangering yourself and the others around you. So for me, and even back here in the States, anybody at home, write stuff down. Don't take it to work with you so you can concentrate on your job at work. You got your family home to kind of keep those separated. To write down notes. I wrote down questions like, why did I did this? Why did I do that? Did I do it for the right reasons? That's question myself. And then I go on my mission. I got all out of my head, and I go on my mission. And when I come back from my mission, I would listen to some music, and I look at those questions again, and I put it in poetry form. And that just helped me to bring that out and express myself.
Wow. So writing for you was that outlet. Additionally, then eventually that poetry and that writing became, sessions or routines of comedy that we're going to go and talk about that's a beautiful, it's just, your life is such amazing, because you spent 13 years in the Army. And then in that fourth tour in Iraq, 3 weeks in at your arrival in Iraq, life changes. And I don't know how to even put this in words, but an IED, blow up when you're with your other 3 to 4 colleagues. You're the only one that, survives. That April 7th, 2007 is a day that obviously you will never forget. And a lot of our armed forces that were there never forget. You were 5 men in the vehicle. Bobby, you were the only survivor. When you wake up, and this is something that I was trying just to put in the correct words. And I basically had a little bit of trouble trying to put it, in writing, but how you were able to cope after you wake up, because you're the only survivor. It's just to think about it. And for the people and thousands that they're listening to us, the United States, Europe, everywhere, you're the only survivor. And how you find out, how you wake up 7 days, 12 days after, 14, because you were in coma, medically induced coma for 2 weeks. And then you were flown to the United States. Your 40% of your body is burned. Bones in your face and shoulders were fractured. It's like starting over. How you were able to cope with this new life, like with this just life change from one day to another, only takes a true warrior and a courageous human being to be able to go through this like yourself and come out like you have done. It's just incredible what you have been able to overcome. How do you were able to cope with that moment and be able to convert that into what it is today, to see a Bobby that is an actor and comedian,
Right. It's a lot of different stages. When you first learn, you're in the hospital, you're like, all right, fix me. I need to get back on the battlefields. I need to get out there again and finish this. You're like, just fix me. You don't realize how injured you really are. I'm in the hospital. They're going to fix me at the auto shop, right? They're going to fix the car. I'm going to get back out there and do my job. So I really believed at first that I was on such medication too. My head was burnt to the skull. I had no skin on my head for 18 months, but I was going to get fixed.
Wow.
And, I spent the 6 months in the hospital. I had my left hand for 2 years before they amputated it. So then that slowly turns into, all right, I can't do this anymore. You know, when you get home out of the hospital, you see all your military stuff in the garage and it hits you and you're like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm useless. You feel useless. You feel like a burden to your family. You feel useless. And I prayed to God every night for over a year just to take me. Said, I'm not supposed to be here. The doctor said there's no medical explanation why I'm alive. They cannot explain why I'm alive. They kept me alive, but they didn't know how I made it there. They didn't know how I made it there alive. And so I know there's a higher power that had some reason for me to be alive. So then I just prayed, all right, I'm here. I get it. But I shouldn't be here. And then I started to get my independence back. As I got my independence back, I was able to drive myself again. I got the skin on my head. I could see out of my eyes. I couldn't see out of my eyes for over a year. I'd have medicine with goggles on all the time.
Wow.
So it was like driving in a rainstorm, like one of those big rainstorms you got to pull over the side of the road.
Correct. Yeah, that is completely pouring down. Yeah.
Yeah. That was my vision for over a year.
Wow.
So we weren't sure how good my vision was going to be, how it would. But now it's 2020 and 2025. And they were going to throw away the left eye, which I don't know if the left eye, they were going to throw it away. But they decided to try to save it.
Wow.
And they did. I can't close it, but it's there and it's got vision.
Wow. You're such a miracle, of life. But not only that, you are a walking miracle with the work that you're doing. But just to understand what you've been through, they were going to take out your eye. And thankfully, your left eye, is the one that, really you have better vision. That is incredible. It's just, wow, you're such a miracle. In the process, when you were in
my kids are really mad because they're blind without their contacts or glasses. But Dad's eyelids get burnt off, and he could see just fine. That's not right.
I love your sense of humor. I love your sense of humor, Bobby, because it's just wild. Because you worked in Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, Texas, with the amazing personnel there. You were 6 months of recovery.
Yeah. They got me from Iraq to the United States in 72 hours while I was in that coma for 2 weeks. So part of the coma started in Iraq.
Wow. That's incredible. And so they fly you into San Antonio, Texas to Brooke Army Medical Center. How was those 6 months? Because it have to be the biggest roller coaster physically, emotionally, mentally, everything roller coaster that you can imagine, mentally, emotionally, in your soul, everything that you were going through there. But humor. It was the therapy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the medication they got you're on, you're hallucinating a lot, especially in the ICU. The first month I spent in ICU, a lot of hallucinations, bugs being breeded in my skin. The nurses are out to get us, all kinds of crazy stuff that I was believing in my own head. Now, as I got near the end of that month and they got me off the meds where I would stop hallucinating, there's ketamine. So when I got off of that, I come out of it, then they'd walk me around the nurse station to make sure I could walk a little bit before they moved me up to the next unit. So I'd drag my feet walking and I would yell at the nurses, making a joke that when I get out of here, I'm having a water party because they would not give us water. You had to have those protein sure drinks and stuff like that. So they wouldn't give me water. So I'm like, I'm getting out of here. I'm having a water party. Go to the pool. We have water balloons, squirt guns. You guys are all invited, but you can't bring any alcohol, just water. So, even just a month into it, I start cracking jokes with the staff as soon as I get my brain back to me again, and not hallucinating. But I put nurses in headlocks. I heard I broke out of my metal splints trying to escape because I thought they were going to get me.
Wow.
I was very mean to a lot of them in ICU. So I'll get a nurse come to me. Oh my God, you won't remember me. I helped you out in ICU. I'm like, I'm sorry. Right away. I'm sorry. I've heard I did horrible things in the ICU because I thought I was captured.
Yeah, correct. And you have to be, you were captured mentally because you didn't know what just happened, where you were going through. You didn't know if you were in the United States because maybe you were looking down the window and you're like, where am I? Like,
I couldn't even see. My vision had the medicine in my eyes. I couldn't really see. I knew everybody by their voice.
Blind for just 1 year, so you completely were trusting what you were going through. And I can imagine what you went through that first month because you maybe were saying like, "Oh my God, I'm captivated over here. Or maybe you're not going to be able to come back. You know what just happened? You know, my kids, my wife. Maybe there were so many there was a storm of thoughts, but
Yeah.
when you realized that you were in good hands, that you were in the United States being taken care of, and they were giving you the best care possible for a veteran like yourself that came just from Iraq, months ago, how was when you realized that, you were in good hands and they were treating you for you to be able to get out and tell your story to the world like you've been doing for the past years?
Yeah, that's when I kind of started making friends with everybody. Of course, it's like at the end of that ICU thing, and when I transitioned, one of my ICU nurses actually would come visit me all the time, and we joke around together. And physical therapists would stop by on their way if they had a bad day at work. You saw another patient, they'd clock out, still come by my room and joke around with me just to feel better before they went home.
That's cool.
So it made me feel better and let them know I was still there, let my family know, okay, no matter what he looks like, it's still that crazy guy inside. I was always a joker.
And not only that, but I gotta be honest with you. Like I watch your routines. I watch your work. I watch what you have done. I watch everything, from the work that you have done with, the veterans, but, the Netflix, Showtime, NPR, Fox, do you ever thought when you were those 6 months and you were going through all those nurses and colleagues and people that you really met in San Antonio, Texas, and you were telling those jokes on that room, going through maybe the toughest times in your life, mentally and emotionally, but do you ever thought that your jokes and your story was going to be such impactful? Because I still watch your routines from Showtime and Netflix and NPR, and I watch your work, and it makes me laugh, but it makes me laugh with a meaning, something very different that I feel with any other comedian. Because Bobby, like, you have lived your life of purpose, and now you're fulfilling this other purpose that life gave you as a comedian. And it's funny, your stories. It's funny that those jokes that maybe you were telling in the hospital room, now they're shared with the world, but still they have a lot of meaning. Because for me, it's like, wow, Bobby's making jokes. He have go through and been through so much shit different than myself that I have a lot of freaking reasons to be laughing to his jokes and to be laughing every day for the blessings that I have. Do you ever thought that room when you were recovering and going through your worst times was going to become the biggest blessing for you when you get out to become the amazing comedian and human being that you have become?
Thank you. But no, I was still praying every night, even though I was making jokes during the day and helping everybody else. I want to die that night. Inside, I just want to die. I was useless. I had survivor's guilt. Like, why am I alive? I shouldn't have lived. But I learned with survivor's guilt to deal with it by thinking about, if I was the one that didn't make it home, what would I want for the guy who did, or the other guys and girls that made it home, my compadres. I want them to live their best life. I want them to live their life to the fullest, their dreams, whatever that is for them. I want them to live that life that they still have. And that way they don't disrespect my death.
Gotcha, correct.
My death isn't a waste when they've got a life and they just don't use it. They waste it. So that's one of the things that pushes me. And I got to remind myself still, 14 years later, I still got to remind myself, look, you're supposed to be here for a reason. You still got, I got my ups and downs too. So, but for their families, for them, for an example to my children, to my grandchildren now, I got to be that example, hopefully. So when they have something in their life that maybe they go, oh, if Burt Paw, they call me Burt Paw, my grandkids. So if Burt Paw can do that, I can, hopefully my grandchild will be telling some story in college about how their Burt Paw helped them get through something,
Of course. And you know what?
Hopefully it's not out of jail, in college, but, hopefully whatever they need.
But you know what? Just having your kids and being a grandparent now, your family have to feel very proud of you, Bobby. Like, I feel very proud of you. My wife, my family, they feel proud of you. I can't imagine how many stories you typically get because, I was watching one of your stories because I've been following you for a while, with my personal account and now with my business account, obviously with the Luis Otero account in Instagram. I watch you and it was wonderful. A video that I was watching yesterday before because I was doing some research and I'm like, sometimes you said something very special with the algorithm. in social media, sometimes it's difficult to get through and just be able to impact people's lives. And
Yes.
he said, when you were maybe down, we still sometimes, us, your audience, us, your fans, us who, who we support your work and we watch your stand-ups and everything, we still provide a lot of that motivation every single day, to remind you that the retired Army sergeant, the wounded warrior, the 4-tour Iraq War, the Purple Heart recipient, the comedian, the husband, the actor, the true patriot that you are, still needs some motivation too, because we all go through that, and it was very beautiful to see you put your heart out there, and still get motivated by the beautiful stories and videos that you were able to share from some of your fans. What stand-up means to you and the platform that you have created, not only to be a stand-up, but motivational speaker, person to impact lives of people, and still receive this feedback when sometimes you need it the most?
Yeah, because you don't realize it. I mean, if you're in the middle of a show, you get it. You're talking to the audience, or and after the show, they'll come talk to you, whether it's speaking or a comedy show. You get to interact with them right there, and they get to share your stories with you. But then that kind of dies down. Like, I'm making a video, I don't see all your reactions. I don't know. We liked it. We thought it was funny. But when someone shares with me through a DM or some message, they'll send it to the website or they'll DM me something that I've really helped them through. Or, hey, look, whenever I have a bad day, keep doing what you're doing, because I go rewatch your videos. And it's like, oh my God, see, I got to make another video. And it's like, oh my God, I should make another video. There's pressure too, right? I got to keep doing this. It's tough. At first, I was real bad about just forgetting about myself. COVID kind of woke me up to, all right, this is time to remind yourself to take care of you too.
Yeah.
I got to find that balance where I take care of myself too. So I've been getting better at that. I'm getting older. I just turned 50, so I'm trying to be mature ish. But I crack up because you were naming all that stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that guy sounds cool. Like, holy shit, I actually did all that.
You have done so much, man. Like, I'm so proud of you because you have done so much. Like, the amount of work and the amount of stand up and that you and your story, I'm going to be just naming a few outlets for people that they're listening to us. Showtime, Netflix, Fox, Newsmax, Time, Guidepost, CNN, Today, People, Reader's Digest. Those are just a few of the outlets, and not only channels, but as well platforms that they have trusted your work, give you the opportunity, and be able just to, have you on their programming, not only from the standpoint of your story, but as well, what you have done with, the Comedy Warriors, Healing Through Humor. That is wonderful. I think it's one of the most impactful and amazing initiatives that I have ever seen you, Bobby, after your service to the United States, and be able to impact lives of still, brothers and sisters that they're veterans. They have served, this country so well, and you providing humor. I think that's where humor finds meaning. And that's why it's so beautiful to see that to the people that they have done the same sacrifice as yourself. But not only that, provide that platform of healing, laughing, heals.
And that's my big message out there is, I was like, yeah, look, I did this. I was on Showtime. I did that. I went skydiving today. Oh, I was surfing in Maui today. And it's not like, oh, look at me. Look what I can do. It's like, look, I can do this. Where I came from that deathbed to one arm to burns, I can't close my eye. If I can do this, you can do this. And that's the whole point. It's not all about me. It's sharing a story to help others with my story, hopefully. And again, for them to give me feedback on their stories, because that helps me and will help somebody else too. We all got to share our stories.
Oh, correct. When was the first time when you get out of San Antonio and you step a stage, you said, I'm going to do this in an open mic? I'm going to do this close to my home? I don't want that much people knowing that I'm going to try stand up. How was that first night? Some people, they get stage frightened. I have been very friends with tremendous comedians, and I had a conversation recently, a few weeks ago with a tremendous comedian, Keith Sutherland from the Carolinas, and as well I talked to recently to Bill Burr. And yes, and I had a conversation that I talked to him, and Jim Brewer, former member of the Saturday Night Live, and great comedian as well. And they said, man, that first night, that first routine was the worst thing, and thank God there were no cameras. How was that first routine? Where you try it? Do you remember that day, Bobby? And how was that experience? You fell in love with that stage because you've been doing it.
I have the notes from that day where I wrote the jokes down, what notes I was going to do.
Wow, that's so wild.
Because I didn't want to tell people what happened to me. I would just make that up. You've seen it, the rare birth effect joke. I didn't want to tell them that what happened.
Yeah, you were bringing that dark humor, and people, they were like, oh my God, do I laugh or do I don't laugh? But that's the beautiful.
So nobody laughed. It was the Comedy Store in L.A. Nobody laughed.
You went to the Comedy Store in LA. That's one of like the churches, the churches of comedy,
I was seeing a doctor at UCLA with Operation Mend that helps us do facial reconstruction surgeries. And my occupational therapist in San Antonio said, when you're out there, you got to try comedy. She kept bugging me. So she basically nagged me into trying it. So I went that night to prove her wrong that this will not work. And I went out there. Nobody laughed. The 3 people in the audience are the ones that brought me to the show. The rest were other comedians waiting to do their 3 minutes
correct
of open mics to practice. So they weren't paying attention. But one of them told me after I got off stage, I like that really the acid reflux joke you did. And I just kind of added that in there. I didn't really think that was the punchline. I didn't really understand the format for writing the joke. So that kind of put it in perspective. So I went back to San Antonio and I said, you know what? I know how to do this now. It felt good. I'm already kind of sharing my story to churches and schools. This is another platform. If I could put it in joke form to reach another audience that isn't expecting it. And like you said, it's a different comedy. I call it inspirational comedy.
It is great comedy, man.
Inspirational comedy. But that first time was not as scary. Like most comics have a scarier time. I'm trying to prove this girl wrong, so I want it to go wrong, and if I did horrible on the stage, it wouldn't be my first bomb.
And the crazy part of this amazing thing, Bob, is that you were doing this to fail, something that you have never done in your life. And you were even trying to fail, and you still had an amazing, joke of the acid reflux. And that really maybe was the seed that you said, maybe I'm not that bad. Maybe I should try this. Maybe in another stage, in another area, maybe in Las Vegas. Maybe I should go to LA again in another venue. Maybe you could go to, the Carolinas where you spend a lot of your time, that there's great, comedy clubs. You maybe said, hey, maybe I should try this. Like that second routine.
If it wasn't for that comment, I probably wouldn't have continued with it. But I was like, okay, that's cool. I think the audience laugh because they can relate to the acid reflux even more. It's something they can relate to.
Sure.
So it made it funnier.
I had acid reflux like 2 days ago. Like.
And so then I went back to San Antonio and I was like, I found about open mics. And again, it was a relief for me to get on stage and make fun of it.
That's cool.
Because I like to make fun of it. So that was good for me to get it out that way. I never thought it would actually still at that point go in anything. I was just having fun. I go to open mic 3 nights a week, practice these jokes, think they were funny. I practice on my Navy buddies because Navy buddies will laugh at anything.
That's
and so then that's what I would do. And eventually they're like, hey, do you want to host this comedy show and do 10 minutes? Like what? 10 minutes?
10 minutes of
scary.
routine is
I've only
scary.
been doing 3 to 5.
Yeah.
So
that's why I respect so much. That's why I respect you tremendously, because just doing and I have a lot of friends that they're stand-up comedians, but it's just, they always tell me it's like timing, man. It's difficult having to put a routine of 30 to an hour, be able to just grab that timing, understand the psychology, what is clicking, what is not clicking, so many things. Yeah. It's like being on the war zone for you, but it just being on the stage, because you have to look at people's faces, being able to, appeal to them, being able to
read that audience. Because some jokes here might not work with that audience there.
Correct.
It's your timing, the segues. What if somebody in the audience said something but you got to catch that, keep going. You got to give them a break. You just can't have joke. You actually got to give more detail, build up.
Correct.
So there's little things you learn along the way of kind of how to navigate that song of the rhythm for the comedy show.
Correct.
That works right with your style too, because there's different types of styles of comedy.
Correct.
So
no, definitely. And as your uncle was your mentor for the Army, who were your mentors to be able to put routines in comedy? Because I have seen your comedies, and I'm your routines as stand-up comedian, and I want to make sure that to reiterate, they're awesome, but you're taking, I don't see any specific style. I see a style that it's you. How you were able to find your style and your routine and the way for you to be able to put those stories the way that you do that, and who was the mentors that you maybe said, Richard Pryor was one of them, like having George Carlin or Gaffigan or whoever of these big comedians.
Growing up, I always listened to Bill Cosby. Was amazing, despite what happened later in his life. Amazing comic, clean writer. To write clean jokes is the hardest thing to do.
Correct,
and he was awesome at that. Of course, I loved Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. I think, Eddie Murphy was probably the biggest one that I listed. Eddie, Robin Williams, and Gallagher were kind of the ones that in my main teenage years where I really enjoyed the comedy shows and stuff. That was them. And that really influential in my age group. And then when I started doing it, it's the other comics, the other guys trying to do comedy too, going to mic fight material. We bounce stuff off each other. So that first couple of years, we help each other out with different jokes. And if they thought of a burnt joke, Bobby, I can't use this, but this might work for you. And then you still can't say it the way someone would say it because it's different. You got to put it in your own words. You help someone out with a joke and you come up with a joke together. They still got to figure out how to deliver it because it's not going to be exactly right. It's not true to who they are. But then later on, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, sure. No, definitely. And like you were saying, it's important just to have that kind of structure. It was easy for you to find that structure, Bobby, because your structure is very well put, Yeah,
it wasn't real easy. A buddy of mine, he was in the Air Force and a little bit older than me, so we were both started comedy at the same time. I met him at the open mic, and our structure was you had to have 3 lines for the joke. You had to go boom, punchline. So we wouldn't give you a break. We didn't know that because if it was quiet, we didn't like that. But it's actually okay for a quiet time. As long as it's quiet and they're not talking, then they're still listening. So it's okay to come out like that. You come out with some jokes to get them on your side right away. Say, trust that you are funny. And now you can relax, make it more conversational, build it up with more material and description to make it even funnier at the end. But you give them that break where they're not busting their gut and their faces aren't hurting. But you're still going to deliver something big at the end. And it's okay to have that lull time. It's good to keep the flow going.
No, definitely.
But that was one thing I learned. And then some of the stuff was after 2 years of doing that on open mics. Then eventually that's when I did Comedy Warriors. And Brad Garrett let me come to his club in Vegas. And so that opened up where I got to talk to Brad Garrett, Bob Saget, Zach Galifianakis, Lewis Black. So now I got a bigger comedians been doing it in 30 years. And that was another thing to add to my repertoire to take it in. Like, okay, let me process this new adjustment I got to make from their advice. And Lewis Black is the one who said, hey, you got this from the go. You're boom, boom, boom. Now relax and give them more information. Build it up. It's okay. So, yeah. And that was in Comedy Warriors. It didn't make it. That didn't make it in that you got edited.
Correct. Sure.
But that was the best advice he gave me that day. I think in Comedy Warriors, you hear him talking about my used to see the other guy joke, which Brad Garrett told me to say. Because I would start off, I'm a burn survivor, been extinguished for years. And then Brad goes, well, I see you coming out going, you should see the other guy. I was like, oh, that's hilarious, I think. Now that you said it, the funny thing is my Air Force buddy had said that a year before that. And I said, that's not funny. It's not going to work. That's overplayed. You should see the other guy. But then Brad tells me that. I'm like, okay, I should try it. And then it worked. And then Lewis Black hears me do that. And he's like, oh, my God, that's $1 million opener.
That's
and then
awesome.
He just went off in Comedy Warriors. And it was hilarious. So I don't want to ruin it. You got to go see it. It's on Amazon right now. Check it out.
No, it is wild. And I suggest to everyone that they're listening to go to YouTube and go put Bobby Henline, Hen as in Nancy, Line. Awesome routines. And it's awesome the names that you mentioned, Zach Galifianakis, you got Lewis Black, Bob Saget. You mentioned tremendous, stand-up comedians over there from the experiences of just being in the circuit, being able to performing Laugh Factory, being able to be in the comedy club, being able to go to all these great sets of comedy, but not only that as well, going to and participating in as an actor in Sophie and the Rising Sun, Surviving Home, and Shameless, the amazing series that is in Showtime. do there's any of those names or anyone in one of those sets that when you have finished one of those amazing routines that you have go and sit down with you and said, hey, I love what you're currently doing here. I think that you could put it here together. Additionally, something like what Lewis Black have, put and was able to give you as an advice. There's any of these big names or that have provide guidance through the process and be able to get you to this level additionally in your effort of the game? Because Bobby, I think that you're in just such a great moment in your career and life, because you're doing TV, plus you have the amazing documentary that you're currently working with Non-Gaffin that is wild. That is and I suggest to everyone, go to livewelldone.com, livewelldone.com, LIVE welldone.com, or go to indiegogo.com to support this amazing documentary, the Helm documentary that is about yourself. How this came about, because from and first of all, before we get into that, from these actors that I mentioned in those routines, Bobby, who have give you the best advice or the most advice additionally than Lewis Black for your routines and what we see every day?
Yeah. The comedy side, I mean, Lewis Black, Brad Garrett, Brad's awesome. He keeps in touch with me all the time. He's actually flown to San Antonio before and hosted comedy shows to raise money for the troops with me. So he's been a tremendous support. But doing those movies and stuff like that, Diane Ladd in Sophie and the Rising Sun. A lot of people younger probably don't know Diane Ladd. Her daughter, Laura Dern from Jurassic Park. People would know her.
Oh, yes.
For sure. Diane was just amazing. I played her son in Sophie and the Rising Sun, and she was just an amazing person spiritually. And we would be having conversations, just her connecting with me, the conversation about spiritually and about life in general. It wasn't about just me specifically, but she felt something really important with me that she loved, that feeling, that connection we had. And we'd just be sitting in the little chairs there waiting for the call us on set. And I'm nervous. I had no lines. I'm a quad in a chair and I can't speak, but I look lively through my eyes and I move my head a little bit, and I got to look really injured. I eat oatmeal at one point, but the biggest scene was me eating oatmeal, right? That I had to focus on. Still, besides looking dead in this chair. I mean, it took great acting because I was in such great shape. But she was so just talking. I'm like, how are you talking right now? You got a lot of lines. How are you going to remember all that? I have no lines and I'm nervous. But she was just an incredible person, and she just flowed right into it and just so natural. And again, it's just those personal conversations about life, just sitting on the sidelines with her. I'm sitting here. After that day, I go back to my hotel room, Mom. So I'm sitting there just talking to Diane Ladd, chilling on this movie set. This is ridiculous.
That's super awesome.
I shouldn't be here. It's crazy. Donnie Most, which lots of older people know him as Ralph Mouth.
Of course.
From Happy Day.
Yeah, from Happy Day, yeah.
He played an attorney in a movie, Man's Best Friend, that I did, where I played a Marine gunny. And then I had this big monologue that made me even more nervous. But just talking to him offset, just seeing how relaxed these experienced actors are. I'm the new actor coming in. And I'm always playing a wounded veteran, so it's not really much acting going on.
I understand.
I think I got that part nailed.
No, of course. And do you really get a little bit bothered sometimes when they do that type casting? Because I feel that you can bring so much emotion and value at any specific set or story, not only from the perspective of being a wounded warrior, but there's other stories that you can bring to life. Do you sometimes get a little bit, and this is in your feelings, but do you get a little bit bothered? It's I want to do something else than just a wounded warrior, Right.
No, I like the wounded warrior parts because both the movies that I did there, Sophie and the Rising Sun and Man's Best Friend, they were important movies.
Yeah.
I thought they had a really good storyline with it, and very important with the issue they were dealing with at those times. Like Sophie and the Rising Sun's World War II time. And of course, this Man's Best Friend is Afghanistan veteran coming back, where the dog had saved my life. So those, I think, are important. If it's just a general body on the side or something in a hospital, not so great. But then, you get Shameless calls me. I was a static one.
Wow.
Shameless. I couldn't even eat lunch that day. Like I couldn't. I put my food up, down. I couldn't even eat it when I found out. It's like a Thursday. They called. I was in Cleveland. That Tuesday, I had to fly to LA and do the scene. And I was like, what do I can't even think right now. Like what? This is crazy. They just called me. And they called me for a funny part. Like I'm not the wounded veteran. You know, I'm the criminal pyrotechnic that messed up. You know,
wow,
that sucked at his job. You know, blowing up and burning buildings for the mafia. Yeah. And I just got out of jail. So it's kind of neat. It's a neat character who I was supposed to represent, and I used some of my material in there to describe me in the scene. So it's really neat. It's a small part. I got one word, but it was just an amazing experience.
No,
and I love that.
It's an amazing experience. Like you're in Chotem, you're in all these sets. It's just a matter of, you know, the time, like the same thing that you have put in your time and effort and consistency with your stand-up work that is very well respected at this point, and you have been able to create a career that, you know, for just being a veteran and be able to transition from the armed forces to the world that we live in, the civilized world, what I call sometimes, you know, or, you know, the real world. It's good because you're continuing your mission and your vision of what you want. And I think that at the end of the day, Bobby, you're feeding as well your soul with good energy and feeding your heart with positive energy with what you're currently doing. So that's why it reflects to your happiness, and we can see, you know, your contributions and how powerful your story is, because you have taken this more deep, and is to teach everyone that they're listening that, you know, we have a purpose in life. Additionally, than what maybe initially was our purpose, that can transform to many things, and like you impacted your life.
Like I was praying to die every night, and if I would have died, I wouldn't be here. If the times I thought about taking my life, if I would have did that, all this wouldn't happen, and I wouldn't have known that. So that's why I try to encourage people. It's hard times right now, but you're going to get through that. And when you do go down and you do have a hard time, go deeper and get it all out. Don't stop here and bury this part down here. You still got to go all the way down there and get it all out, get it off your back, throw it out, get mad, cry, punch something, you know, a bag or something.
Sure.
Close in the closet like I would do. Look in the mirror and cry and say, hey, like, yell. Just get it out. Go lower. Because then when you come back up, you have less weight on you, and you're going to come back up higher than you were before. And you're going to learn, oh, I can come back from that. And so when it happens again next time, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to come higher. And it's just it's a roller coaster in life. We all go through it. No matter what you've been through in life, we all got our stuff that we got to deal with.
No, definitely.
And my stuff is any worse than anybody else's.
No, definitely. But you have utilized that just to, you know, build something extremely special, and that's why we are having this amazing and beautiful conversation with you, Bobby. That I know that it's not going to be the first. So, you know, definitely it's just wonderful. From the stages that you've been, what has been the best audience that have received your jokes? And I know that every single audience is special, but comedians are looking for that night when you get a standing ovation, because it just a reaffirmation that you really put a great routine out there. Do you had one of those nights?
There's a few of those nights, and those are usually the audiences. I mean, I love making people laugh in general. There's always someone in the audience that shares a story. It's like, okay, even if that one person was there that night and I was there for that one person that night, and everybody else kind of just, hey, it's a regular comedy show. They had a fun time. They went home. But if one person gets it, and that usually happens, at least one person will come share something that helped them through. But I got to say, going back overseas, I went back to Kuwait, Afghanistan, and Iraq, and I did comedy for the troops. And being out there and just to be able to make them laugh. I know what it's like to be out there away from your family. And here I come Thanksgiving. Hey, we're going to do some jokes and talk about getting blown up. And they might have to go out later that day or the next day where they could get blown up. But they're sitting there laughing at me, talking about how I got blown up. And it's just that sense of humor you have to do that job, right? So I give them that little break, and they can relax and enjoy their time and then get back on the mission.
That's wild, man. You know, that's a labor of love, because you got to be tough, man, to be doing, you know, like jokes and making people laugh in the other side of the world. You know, they were in Afghanistan or Iraq. You're making jokes to blow themselves out of, you know, they're like getting blow up. You know, only a very well educated and amazing audience like the Army or Armed Forces will definitely take those jokes in such an amazing way, but it's the best way for them to be able to relieve any single part of their stress. Bobby, Noni Geffen is a director and decides, and a very good friend of yours, and decides to say, hey, your story is such a wonderful story. I think that a book will never make justice to this amazing story and amazing work that you're doing, an amazing life. And he said, let's do a documentary and let's find a way to make a documentary that could tell the wonderful story of Bobby Henline. And it's called Live Well Done. And everyone can go to livewelldone.com. Tell us a little bit about this, because Live Well Done, and for everyone, please contribute to the Indiegogo campaign. It's going to be an amazing documentary. Noni Geffen, just for people to just know, Noni Geffen is an amazing award-winning director for Not in the Tel Aviv, Everything is Broken Up and Dances, and the producer of this amazing documentary that, is Ben Seagal from Scott Rudin Productions. And gotta be wild for you, Bobby, because you have Noni, such an amazing name, and decides, I want to do a documentary on your life. And we definitely should have this documentary and create this documentary because your life needs to go on, and we got to highlight your cross-country road trips and your arenas and the journey of your redemption. Talk about the post-traumatic, episodes that you might have. And the most importantly, you're a walking piece of hope for us. So how that, came about, like when the plan started and how beautifully have come together, when Noni gets close to you and say, man, I want to see your story in a documentary.
Yeah, it's because Noni himself, again, a award-winning director and stuff, he was also a soldier, an Israeli soldier. So he's seen combat. He's been there. He's had his own issues to deal with. That's what makes him perfect for it. He has same sense of humor.
Yeah.
But he's done a movie, a darker side of PTSD stuff. He's done that before, and he wanted to do a lighter side, and that's how we ended up meeting. And so it's like, he's the right guy. We got to hang out in Canada together, in LA a couple of times. And of course, we're always talking now. He's back in Israel, so we're always Zooming or sending each other funny stuff, trying to build all this up. We started this back in 2019. And of course, COVID put things on the back burner, no pun intended. And we had all this interest of people ready to go. And then but they were working on projects then. So now that their projects got pushed back. So then it just came like they're catching up on their old projects. And we're like, oh, we can't wait any longer. Let's just go do this ourselves and see if we get somebody else on board. And that's why we just started, hit the road. Let's do this. Let's get out there, raise this money, and we can make this happen. And along the way, I'm sure other people will come on board. We know we got other good friends that are interested. They're just busy right now with some other projects. But if we get it started, they'll jump on the middle of it, and it'll be a great film by the end.
It's going to be an amazing film.
I know so many people and put it on a platform again. It's about if I can do this, you can do this. And it's about making the movie because, like I said, in a book, I can write and I can say wonderful things about myself. You don't know if I'm telling the truth. I can make up, Sean so-and-so said this to me. You don't know. But if I capture it on film and people talking, sharing their stories back to how I've helped them, and I'll share if they help me. I'll share when I'm having that anxiety attack in the middle of the grocery store, when I'm about to pass out and I got to walk outside.
That's crazy.
It still happens. It happened not too long ago. And I was just with the girlfriend shopping, and we stopped, and she's just, we have a nonprofit. So we're helping other veterans feed them at a camp thing. So we're getting all this food, and I'm pushing the cart, but she shops differently. I need a pattern to deal with my post-traumatic stress and OCD. I need a pattern to the store. She has no pattern. That kicks off my anxiety. So I'm pushing the cart. I'm leaning against the freezer, just like, Shake, are you okay? I say, I just need to sit here for a second. And I literally on the brink of almost crying, trying to hold it all in. Because normally I would just go outside, but there was too much water on the cart. She couldn't push it. So I had to be in there to push the cart. So I was like, I can't leave her. I got to get this done. I've been to war. I can stand here and push a grocery cart without crying, right? I'm about to pass out.
That's, yeah.
But it was so funny because she's like, all right, take a break. She, she's learned signs to see what's going on. She goes and gets some stuff. She comes back. She goes, well, I don't want those buns. I saw some really good buns over there. Can you take those buns back and get those buns? That's all you got to do. I'm like, I can do that. So I grab the buns. I put them back. I go to grab the other buns. As soon as I grab them, so, I'm in the middle of this panic attack. And some lady goes, hey, aren't you that guy from TikTok? Oh.
Oh my God.
First she startled me. Like,
you are in this task and she just comes like that. You're like, that's me.
Yeah, that's me. Hi. And kind of walk away real fast and awkward. I was like, I didn't want to scream at her. Like, you just kind of shout. I tried to look as calm as I could on the outside. I have no idea what I look like. So if you're out there listening, lady in that Walmart, and I was grabbing the buns, please let me know, because I would really love to know how funny that looked to you.
It had to be super funny.
I know I looked one of the bad moments of my life, but I know, like, to share that could hopefully help somebody else to know, look, Bobby doesn't wake up and just like laughing and giggling all day long. I have moments I got to push through,
Yeah.
But we can do it. We can do it.
I know that we can do it. And it's a lot of great things that they are currently, going. And the Indiegogo, again, people that they're listening to us, all our audience, indiegogo.com/projects/live well-done and a sign of number. That will be the direct link, indiegogo.com, or go to livewelldone.com and go to support our film, and then you can go directly to Indiegogo. It's amazing to see this documentary done, from the story that we're gonna see and the entire life that you have lived, Bobby. I know that putting together hours and hours and hours and hours of your life and reducing that to maybe an hour and a half, it is tough, and sometimes it's difficult because you have to just pick and choose from those important scenes. Yeah. I know that one of the things that really will highlight and will make this documentary so special and so unique is that we're going to explore your humor and what it means to be dealing with what you've been through with humor, but as well the post-traumatic experiences that you have been through and how do you deal with them in your daily life. And despite those obstacles, we can see a Bobby inspiring with different perspectives, bringing the best out of people in the United States and in the world through humor and that connection. Do you really see still every single maybe show that you do or speaking engagement as part of that healing and therapeutic process for you to heal as well on the way to, have that fulfilling life, correct?
Correct. Yeah. A life of service. It's what I've always done. Like I talked about when I was a child, I was always giving, always, if my friends and I got in trouble, I would take the blame. You guys don't get in trouble. I'll just get in trouble, because my mom was always easier on me. Their parents were stricter. So I'll take the blame. I got this. My mom won't do anything. She'll grab me, but she's got to go to work. She's a single mom. She won't know. I'll come out and play tomorrow too. But I was always do that guy. I'll take the blame. I'll take the pain. Or trash day, spring cleaning. I'm going to go grab a chair out of somebody else's trash and bring it home to mom. Look what I got us. It's like, oh, that looks really nice on the porch. Let's leave it outside. But I was always trying to help somebody else. It just fits who I've always kind of been.
Yeah, that's really awesome. In your free time, I have seen you like fishing. You're a fisher, man. You like fishing a lot. You like to go a lot to the beach. You live in the, I see you a lot in the Carolinas. Beautiful coast. Obviously, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, North Carolina. They have beautiful beaches. The Outer Banks, and I'm actually camping right now in North Carolina. I'm in a camper right now.
Really? Glamping, I guess you could say.
That's so awesome. Now. That's really awesome. What part of North Carolina you are right now? Because North Carolina have beautiful scenery. You have the Appalachians around there, yeah, and then you have the coast.
I'm actually close to Fort Bragg. I stay close to the Army base. Isn't that weird to me? Yeah.
Of course, and Fort Bragg have such a long history. With the armed forces. It's just wild because Fort Bragg is, if I'm not mistaken, it's in the middle, close to the middle of the state. If I'm not mistaken, gets close like let me see here, like Richmond, Virginia, not far from there, you know.
We're not far from Richmond, yeah. We're close to Raleigh, a couple hours from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah.
3 hours from Myrtle Beach. So it's a good location, and it's the home of 82nd Airborne, which I served with twice, proudly.
Yeah, the Special Operation Forces, of course. That's where you serve, and you did, you know, you provide your best days, you know, in the Army, and now you are providing us your best days as a comedian, you know, from fishing and enjoying life these days, because you don't take anything for granted anymore after what you've been through after April 7th, 2007. Everyone can see this in the documentary. Go again to livewelldone.com to support this amazing documentary. I did my part. Do your part. And, you know, we have a goal that we're looking just to meet, that is $50,000. And we're going to meet that goal. I feel extremely positive that, you know, a lot of people listening will go in and chip in, because this story have to be, you know, told. From the hobbies that you have these days and living the life that you live these days, what do you enjoy the most? Because I like fishing, fly fishing a little bit, but I'm more a saltwater guy because I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. But I see that you do a lot of camping, a lot of outdoors. You know, you still serve the United States, you know, and have these amazing initiatives for our armed forces. But you do fishing, and you like spend time with your grandkids and family and kids. But what really do you enjoy the most from all this, you know, and this second chance of life that, you know, life have gave you? What do you enjoy the most of doing?
Yeah, like I said, Mother Nature is the main key. Mother Nature is healing, whether it's the mountains, the beach, the lake, the rivers, a hike. Last 2 days I went kayaking. You know, I put on the prosthetic arm and I went kayaking for a couple hours each day. And it's just so healing to do that and get out there, those outlets. And I love it all. I mean, whatever I can do. If I could be at the beach surfing or boogie boarding, I'm at the beach playing in the waves all the time. That energy from the ocean, I just think I really enjoy Mother Nature's energy more. Like I could feel it. I could feel storms coming in. I just love that. It just makes me feel alive.
Oh yeah. And not only that, but the ocean is a special place because I feel that the ocean just, you know, cleans, you know, a lot of your soul, and you can breathe openly, you know, and have that kind of like open space, and gives you that healing kind of like power. The same thing like doing hiking on the woods, like maybe where you're at right now, Fort Bragg, you know, very big for hiking, and it gives you that kind of like peace.
Exactly.
That
big ocean, you realize how small you are when you're standing in that big ocean, how powerful even the little 3-foot waves can be. You know, you think you're so strong, like, oh my God, this big ocean is so beautiful. And the ocean I'm touching goes all the way across, and someone else is touching the same ocean, you know, across the world somewhere in the same body of water. It's, when you put it in perspective, it's just amazing. And then someone said best, a guy I worked with a few years ago, he said, you know, you got to realize you are insignificant to be significant. I said, wow. You really do. And I think Mother Nature helps do that. That helps put us in perspective, like, wow, I'm just a really tiny thing here. You know, when I'm gone, that's it. What can, and that pushes me, like, how do I leave my footprint to inspire once I'm gone? And I know through these videos, through this movie, that hopefully I continue to help others once I'm gone.
You're going to be able to not help thousands and millions of people, but your story is out there, you know. You know, you have all, you know, media that really in these days, you know, is providing spaces in many, you know, emerging places, you know, for stand-up. That's one of the things that, you know, I have seen you done in your sessions. You know, you are one of those few only guests in the Huckabee TV show, you know, story that have made the entire audience laugh. And I remember that night because I was watching it live. That's how I was like, oh my God, I was watching it live. Yeah, I was watching you live, and I was like, wow, like this is just wow. That was the night that changed my buck. I have like, I love to have conversations with people, famous, not famous, doesn't matter. But that night, you know, I heard your story, and It was wow. I was like, I gotta talk to this guy, and it's incredible how life works. 3 years after,
Yeah.
It's just wonderful to have this conversation with you. We're not having it personally, unfortunately, because of COVID and many things. But having this conversation with you is definitely truly inspiring. Bobby, with your life and everything that you have been seeing lately, and everything, dialogue and comedy have been together all the time, because comedy opens sometimes a conversation that is uncomfortable in order for us to become comfortable. How do you think these days, as a country, as a society, we can find ways to communicate better? I feel the divide these days is extremely tough for me to see, because we're the United States of America, and it's a beautiful country, and that we have give a lot to the world. But seeing the division of ideologies and parties or whatever really sometimes have fractured what is essential and is important. And one of the things that is important is just having dialogue. How do you think we can find dialogue these days, even though we can disagree? I am in the right side and then you're in the left side and whatever, those stories, we have listened to them and see them every single day. But I was raised with, hey, you got to respect people. Doesn't matter your beliefs or their ideologies. Just have to be able to communicate and have a dialogue. And
that is the key. It's how do we do that? We've been doing this for years, and of course, the last few years have been even worse, because the virus has made it worse, where people can't communicate, and then we're counting on just social media news, and we don't know who to trust, which news, and even when you're left or right, whatever news you watch, you're still like, you got to question your own news.
Yes.
What's the truth?
That's so true.
It's who knows the truth? I mean, we Google it, but is this Google the truth? It's so hard until you talk to someone face to face that has been affected by it, whether they've been affected by the actual vaccine, they've been affected by the actual virus, what they survived, what they went through. Until you can actually talk to somebody, you really don't know what to believe. So that's why we can't get mad at anybody if they believe, they voted left, they voted right. If they believe in the vaccine or not the vaccine, you got to be able to communicate and talk and work this out, people. We can't argue. That's going to get us anywhere. We're just going to be fighting and dividing. And that is, even though the right says that's what the left is doing, maybe that is, maybe it isn't. But either way, I think they enjoy it too. They just get to blame it on. I think, all politicians kind of divide people so they have control. But they get to go, okay, it's their fault, and it doesn't matter whose fault it is. People, let's get together. Let's make a difference. And I think if you want to get political for a second, I'm down the middle. I like
down the middle
right
too.
A little more.
I'm down the middle,
honestly. But
me too. I'm center right. I'm center right.
Talk together, no matter what. I want to hear your good ideas. Just like when you have a team, like you may have grew up somewhere else with different backgrounds, but let's work together as a team to find the best answer, because we got so many millions of people we got to take care of, as the government. Sure. You're not just taking care of this one type of person or this one group over here. How do we blend it together? And us as the people got to say, okay, I'll sacrifice that for this group, and but give me this, and we'll give them that. And that's what you got to do. You got to work together. If nothing's really fair all the way around. It can't be. Someone's got to give and take on different sides, and we need a newer government. I think people have been there too long.
I agree completely. I think that
that's too long.
Yeah.
Get a newer people.
No, correct.
I don't know how much you want to get into that right now, but
yeah. No. We need new people. We need to find dialogue. Gotta find a common ground, and we're more good people than bad people. I think that we should sit down and civically, respectfully discuss things. We have more in common than what we think. And what I say,
we got to accept the newer generation too, because I'm getting older, so I can say I know as we get older we get grumpier and set in our ways. So I can say that I'm right in the middle, right? I'm not young, but I'm not super old. I'm right in the middle, and I know I'm getting older and set in my ways. And I think some stuff should be done. We look back at the next generation, we go, what is wrong with these weirdos? But we got looked at the same way. What is wrong with us? Every generation goes through that. Correct. So we got to learn, get it. We got to listen to this new generation on some of the things they want, but then we got to share our experience of what we've learned together and communicate. And that's just it. It needs a little mixture of everybody. You've been there too long. You're old and grumpy. Get out. We need to change things.
No, definitely.
There. Okay.
livewelldone.com, Bobby, Indiegogo.com, projects at / live well done. Go and support the amazing documentary by director Nani Geffen in the life of this amazing hero, American hero, 4-tour Iraq War Veteran, retired Army Sergeant, amazing actor, amazing comedian, amazing human being, and a wounded warrior, and a great patriot, the Purple Heart Recipient, amazing Bobby Henline. That's going to be his story. Go to livewelldone.com, support. We got to meet that goal of 50,000 to make this documentary happen. It's very important for Bobby and for the entire world to hear his story, and all of you can make this possible. Bobby, this is your house anytime. Anytime you want to come back. I definitely have enjoyed tremendously having this amazing conversation with you. Hope that it's not the last. You have given so much to this country, and we thank you for your service. Thank you for what you have done. Thank you for still be such an important role with our armed forces. And most importantly, I will put my part and make sure that, Dialogo with Luis Otero and myself, we are always supporting your projects, especially this one that is extremely important, Live Well Done, documentary director Nani Geffen is partnering with amazing Bobby Henline to bring this amazing documentary about the story of this American war hero that we have with us today, the amazing Bobby Henline. That is just been a tremendous pleasure, truly tremendous pleasure, honored to have you. And here, this is your house anytime you want to come back.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that so much. Thank you.
No, Bobby, appreciate you tremendously. Enjoy your camping. And again, follow Bobby Henline on all social media accounts. Go to Instagram, TikTok, anywhere. Follow Bobby Henline. livewelldone.com. Go and ship into that Indiegogo for the documentary of Bobby Henline, directed by Nani Geffen. Again, everyone that they're listening, please follow us in all our social media accounts. Thank you so much for listening. The amazing story of Bobby Henline is not going to be the first time that we're going to have him back. And definitely go to all social media accounts. And I will see you guys next time in Dialogo with Luis Otero.